So if you're watching this, chances are that someone you love has passed away. First, let me say how sorry I am for your loss. Unfortunately, while you're trying to process everything emotionally, you're often handled a long list of responsibilities. And one of the biggest is figuring out, what do you do with the house that you are now responsible for? Over the years, I've helped many Connecticut families through this exact situation, and I've noticed something. The families who have the smoothest probate sales are not the ones who know the most. They're the ones who avoid just a handful of common mistakes. So today, I want to walk you through the 10 steps of selling a probate property here in Connecticut. And make sure to stay with me until the end, because I'm going to share the biggest mistake that I see families make, and the question almost everyone forgets to ask, and the one decision that can literally mean thousands of extra dollars for the estate. So let's start with the very first step. That is determining whether probate is actually required. One of the biggest misconceptions I hear is, since mom left me the house, I can just sell it. Sometimes that's true, but many times, most times, it's not true. The first thing we need to determine is whether the property actually has to go through probate. And every situation is going to be different. Was there a will? Was the home owned jointly with rights of survivorship? Was it held in a trust? Was there a transfer of deed on death? Or was the home owned solely by the person who passed away? So those details completely change what's going to happen in the next 9 steps. In Connecticut, many estates must go through probate court before anybody has the legal authority to sell the home. And here's something I will always tell families: do not assume. I've seen people spend weeks of cleaning out a house, preparing it for sale, only to discover they can't legally list it yet. I've also seen families delay the process because they assumed probate would take years, when in reality, it could have been done much sooner. That's why the very first conversation I usually have isn't about real estate. It's about understanding the ownership of the property. If you've already hired a probate attorney, wonderful. If you haven't, that's okay too. One of the advantages of working with me is that I have an entire team of trusted professionals and attorneys that I'm going to be able to connect with. That includes experienced probate attorneys who can answer the legal questions and help determine exactly what needs to happen before the home can be sold. I don't practice law. I never pretended to. I wanted to go to law school and then realized how much reading went into it, so I don't do law. But I know a lot of people who do, and I know when to bring them into the conversation. My job is to make sure that you have the right people around the table from the very, very beginning, because when everybody works together, the process is going to be much smoother, and that's one less thing for your family to worry about during this time. Step 2, opening the estate with the Connecticut Probate Court. So once you've confirmed that probate is required, the next step is opening the estate with the probate court. Now, I know those words alone can make people nervous, but let me take a little bit of the mystery out of it. Probate court, I promise, is not there to make your life difficult, and different towns have different probate courts, so they're not all the same. If you've heard, something is terrible in New Haven, that's not going to be the same way as it is in Middlesex, not going to be the same way as it is in Hartford. Different probate courts have different backlogs, and they have different, a number of files that they are dealing with. So we will establish kind of where we're at with the probate court to see how long it could take. The purpose of the probate court is to make sure that everything is handled properly. The court will verify the will, if there is one, identify the heirs, it oversees the creditors, and it makes sure the assets are distributed according to the Connecticut law. So think of probate court as like a referee. They're there to ensure everything is done fairly and legally. Now, one thing that's unique about Connecticut is that probate is handled through district, local probate courts and not like one giant statewide courthouse. The probate attorney usually files the required paperwork, and once everything is accepted, the court begins the legal process. So here's where families often ask me, okay, great, how long is it going to take? And the answer, again, is it depends. Every estate is going to be different. Some move fairly quickly, others take several months, occasionally even longer, especially if there are disputes among the heirs or complications involving the estate. And this is where I try to ease the family's anxiety. Because while the legal process is moving forward, there's still plenty of things that we can do. We can begin discussing the home's condition. We can talk about timing. We can gather information about the repairs that might need to be made, or we can begin organizing contractors if they're needed. Sometimes we even just start planning a marketing strategy long before the home officially hits the market. Why? Because preparation is saving time later. I'm often going to tell families, think of probate as a runway. We're using the time to get everything lined up so that we're cleared for takeoff we're ready to go, instead of scrambling at the last minute. And that's what really my role becomes. Not someone waiting for paperwork, but someone helping you to prepare for what's next. Step 3 is going to be the appointment of the executor or the administrator. And this is probably the most important step in the entire probate process, because until somebody has legal authority, nobody can sell the house. If there was a valid will, that document usually names an executor. If there was not a will, the probate court appoints what's called an administrator. Different title, very similar responsibility. This is the person who has the legal authority to act on behalf of the estate. They're responsible for protecting the estate's assets, paying the valid debts, working with the attorneys, communicating with the beneficiaries, and then eventually selling the home if that's the decision that's made. Now, let me say something to anyone watching who has just been named the executor. First, take a deep breath. Seriously, most people have never done this before. You're learning as you go, and you're grieving, and now somebody suddenly expects you to have all of the answers. Yes, it is a heavy responsibility. You don't have to carry it alone. One of the things that I pride myself on is becoming an extension of the executor. I coordinate with the attorneys. I coordinate with the contractors. I coordinate with the photographers. I coordinate with the cleanup companies. I coordinate with estate sale professionals. My goal is to reduce the number of decisions landing on your plate because you've already got enough to think about. Sometimes the family lives across the country. Sometimes there are 4 siblings trying to make decisions together. I did one once in 3 different countries. The siblings were in 3 different countries. So I've seen every family dynamic that you can possibly imagine, and what I've learned is this. Communication solves almost everything. I keep everybody informed, and I explain what's happening before it happens. So I help prevent surprises, because surprises usually create stress. This is also when I'm starting to bring in another important member of our team, is our valuation specialist. Actually, 2 different specialists. One determines what the property is worth today if we're getting ready to sell. The other provides what's called a retrospective valuation or date of death valuation, which is often needed for probate, tax, or accounting purposes. And they're 2 completely different numbers. Many family members don't realize that they may need both. Having the right professionals involved early helps to avoid delays later. And that's really the theme of this entire process. None of us can remove the grief. I wish I could. But we can absolutely remove the confusion. We can remove the uncertainty, and we can make sure that your loved one's home is handled with the respect it deserves. So now that somebody has legal authority to act on behalf of the estate, it's time to answer one of the biggest questions that everybody actually is going to say. What's the house actually worth? And believe it or not, it's not just one answer. So in the next section, I'll explain why probate often requires 2 different valuations, how we maximize the value of the property before it ever hits the market, and why making the right decision during this stage can mean tens of thousands of dollars for the estate. Okay, now that probate court has appointed an executor or administrator, we can finally start answering one of the biggest questions that every family member asks me. What's the house worth? It sounds like a simple question, but during probate, there are actually 2 different answers. And understanding the difference can save the estate a tremendous amount of money and frustration. Let's talk about step 4, understanding the home's value. One of the first things that I explain to families is that probate isn't like a traditional home sale. In a normal sale, we're focused on one number. What can we sell the house for today? But in probate, we often need 2 completely different valuations. The first is today's market value. That's what buyers are willing to pay in today's market. It's based on current inventory, recent comparable sales, interest rates, buyer demand, and the condition of the home today. That's the number that we use to develop a pricing strategy. But there's another valuation that many families don't know about until the attorney or the accountant bring it up. It's called the date of death valuation, sometimes referred to as a retrospective appraisal. Instead of asking, what is the house worth today? We're asking, what was the property worth on the date that your loved one passed? That value can become important for probate filings, tax planning, and establishing what's called the stepped-up basis. I'm not a CPA. Just like I didn't like to read for law school, I didn't like to crunch numbers so much to become a CPA. But I always encourage families to work with their accountant or an attorney on the tax side. I make sure that they have access to the right valuation professional so that those conversations can happen smoothly. That's one of the biggest advantages of having a team behind you. You're not searching on Google trying to figure out who performs a retrospective valuation. You already have somebody who knows exactly who to call. And then we'll focus on today's value. That's where I spend a lot of time with families. Sometimes they've lived in the home for 40 years. Sometimes they haven't lived there at all. Maybe it belonged to mom. Maybe dad was the last one living there. Sometimes the family has absolutely no idea what today's buyers are looking for. And honestly, that's okay. Because today's buyers don't see a house the same way that homeowners do. They notice things that you've stopped seeing. Paint colors, lighting, flooring, the kitchen, the bathrooms. Even something as simple as furniture placement changes how buyers experience a home. That's why I don't just walk through the house and throw out a number. I'm going to evaluate it carefully. And then I bring in the people who can help us maximize its value. Sometimes it's a contractor, sometimes it's a stager, a painter. And sometimes the best advice is don't spend $1. Sell it exactly as it sits. Every house is going to be different. My goal is helping families make smart financial decisions instead of emotional ones, because not every dollar you spend comes back to you, and not every home needs a complete renovation to bring top dollar. Sometimes a weekend of cleaning or some fresh mulch, that curb appeal, better lighting. If the light bulbs have been in there for 10 years and somehow they haven't gone out, change the light bulbs. And that can really change everything in how a buyer sees the house. Step 5, deciding what to do before the house hits the market. So now that we kind of have an understanding of what we think the home is worth, the next question becomes, well, what do we actually do with it? This is usually where families start to feel a little overwhelmed. They're looking around at decades of memories, furniture, photo albums, holiday decorations, boxes that they haven't opened in 20 years, and they're wondering, where do we even begin? And the answer is one step or one room at a time. One of the biggest mistakes that I see families make is assuming they have to empty the house immediately, and that's not always true. Sometimes we're going to recommend an estate sale. Sometimes family members want keepsakes first. Sometimes charitable organizations can benefit from donations. And sometimes there are valuable antiques that deserve an appraisal before anyone gives them away. So every situation is going to be unique. That's another reason that I surround myself with those professionals who specialize in this process. I have contacts to estate companies, clean-out crews, donation services, junk removal specialists, movers, professional organizers, and even contractors or handyman or handywomen if repairs make financial sense. And notice I said, if repairs make financial sense. Because here's something that surprises a lot of people. You do not have to renovate a probate home. In fact, most of the probate homes I sell are sold exactly as they are. Could they use updates? Sure. Do buyers know that? Definitely. The market adjusts for the current condition. The question isn't, can we make this house perfect? The question is, where will the estate receive the best return on investment? Sometimes replacing old carpeting is going to make sense, or painting every room. Sometimes replacing an outdated light fixture, or putting in just some new staging and rugs. But replacing every cabinet in the kitchen? Not usually. I always tell my families, let's spend money where the buyers notice it the most, not where contractors recommend spending it. And there is a difference. My job is protecting the estate's money just as much as helping to sell the home. And that's something that families are genuinely appreciative of, because every dollar we save is another dollar that stays in the estate. Step 6 is going to be creating the right selling strategy. So once the home is ready, now we get to do what most people think that real estate agents actually do. We market it. But here's where probate sales differ from traditional sales. We're not selling a house, we're representing an estate. That means everything needs to be done very carefully, very professionally, and respectfully. I don't believe probate homes should look like a probate home. I want buyers to walk in and see opportunity and not sadness. That starts with professional photography. If appropriate, we may recommend light staging. Sometimes simply removing excess furniture transforms a room. Sometimes rearranging what's already there makes it feel twice as large. We also develop a pricing strategy. And I want to spend a minute talking about pricing because that's incredibly important. Families are often going to have two reactions. Either we should price it high because mom's house is special, or we want to get rid of it and fire sale it. Neither approach is usually the right one. The goal is finding the price that attracts the largest pool of buyers while maximizing what the estate ultimately receives. They're not always the same thing. In today's Connecticut market, the best priced homes often generate the most competition, and competition creates leverage. I've seen homes receive multiple offers because they were priced strategically. I've also seen probate homes sit for months because someone insisted on pricing based on emotion instead of market data. Emotion is understandable, but pricing needs to be logical. So I'm going to prepare a detailed market analysis. I explain every comparable sale, every active competitor, every pending listing, days on market, so that the executor can make an informed decision with confidence. And once we agree on the strategy, that's when my marketing machine goes to work. Again, we're going to have professional photography, video, targeted digital marketing, social media, email campaigns, networking with other agents, open houses when it's appropriate. Everything is designed to expose the property to the largest audience possible, because the more qualified buyers that we attract, the better position the estate is in when offers begin arriving. So now comes the part that we're all waiting for, and the offers, they're just pouring in. But accepting an offer on a probate property isn't as straightforward as accepting an offer on a traditional sale. In the final part of this series, I'm going to walk you through reviewing offers, when the probate court approval may still be required in Connecticut, what happens on closing day, and how the estate is ultimately settled. And then we're going to finish with the final 4 steps so you know exactly what to expect from the accepted offer, all the way to handing over the keys. So at this point, we've done a lot of the heavy lifting. The estate has been opened. The executor of the estate has been appointed. We've determined today's value, obtained any necessary date of death valuation, prepared the home, and successfully brought it to market. Congrats, you're on the market. And the offers start coming in. And while that's exciting, a probate sale still has a few important differences from a traditional home sale. Step 7, reviewing offers and negotiating the best outcome. When the first offer comes in, families are often relieved. It's like, finally, progress. But one of the biggest mistakes I see is assuming the highest offer is automatically the best offer. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it absolutely is not. My job is to slow things down just enough to look at the entire picture. Is the buyer financing the purchase? Are they paying cash? Are they asking for inspections? Do they need to sell another home first? How large is their deposit? How quickly can they close? What repairs are they expecting? Because an offer isn't just a number, it's a package. You have to look at all the terms and conditions. I've seen offers that were $20,000 higher than another, and yet the lower offer ended up putting more money in the estate because it had fewer contingencies and closed without delays. So I'm going to sit down with the executor and explain every single term. There's no pressure, there's no rushing, it's just the facts. Sometimes we negotiate, sometimes we ask for stronger terms, sometimes we ask for multiple buyers at their highest and best offers. And when that happens, competition usually works in the estate's favor. But one thing I'm always reminding families is this: your loved one's home deserves the same thoughtful negotiation as any other property. Just because it's an estate sale doesn't mean that we accept the first offer that comes along. We're still working towards the best possible outcome. So then another question that I hear all the time is, should we accept a cash offer just because it's cash? Again, not necessarily. Cash is attractive because it removes financial risk, but sometimes a finance buyer presents a stronger overall package. Every situation is going to be different, and that's why I review every offer line by line. My job isn't simply just to get an offer. My job is to protect the estate from unnecessary risk while maximizing the value that's ultimately distributed to the heirs. At step 8, we have the court approval and keeping everything moving. So here's where the Connecticut probate can differ from a traditional real estate transaction. Depending on how the estate is being administered and the authority granted to the executor or administrator, probate court may still be required before the sale can move forward. This is one of those areas where your probate attorney becomes incredibly important. Some executors have broad authority to sell real estate. Others need additional approval from the court before closing. Every state is going to be a little bit different. So the good news, this isn't something that you have to figure out on your own. Throughout the transaction, I'm in regular communication with the attorney and the lenders and everyone's involved. Instead of the executor trying to coordinate 5 different professionals, I keep everybody on the same page because communication is what keeps transactions moving. I also am going to prepare the families for something that's completely normal. Probate sales can sometimes move a little slower than traditional sales. Doesn't mean something's wrong. It just means that there's more people involved. Buyers need to and will understand that. And I'm going to make sure that the buyers know up front that they're purchasing an estate property. All the documents are going to say subject to probate approval. So we're setting the expectations early and preventing frustration later. Also, having the conversation with the probate attorney to find out how backlogged the probate courts are will help set those expectations. Most buyers aren't scared of probate homes. As long as they're informed and represented properly, they're usually comfortable with the process. And that's another reason why experience with probate matters. When everyone understands what's happening, the transaction feels much smoother for everyone involved. And step 9, we're getting close to closing day, so it often brings, a mix of emotions. There's relief, there's excitement, there's sadness. Sometimes all three happen within the first 5 minutes. Because this isn't just another real estate transaction. For many families, it's the last chapter of a home that's been part of their life for decades. I've walked through homes where children marked their heights, on the walls. I've stood in family rooms where families celebrated 50 Christmases. I've watched siblings laugh over old photo albums while cleaning out closets. Those memories don't disappear when the house sells. They're simply coming with you instead of staying in a building. And that's something that I'm going to remind the families of often. A home is where memories are happened. The memories themselves aren't being sold. As we approach closing, my job is to make sure that there are no surprises. Again, I coordinate with the attorneys. I coordinate with the buyer's lender. I'm going to confirm that the inspections are complete. I make sure that every deadline is met, and then if issues come up, and sometimes they do, I solve them before they're your problem. I'm often going to tell families, my goal is for closing day to feel almost boring, because boring means everything went according to plan. And honestly, when you're dealing with something like this, that's exactly what we want. Once the paperwork is signed and the ownership transfers, the proceeds don't simply get divided among the heirs. Instead, those funds become part of the estate and are handled according to the probate process, which is going to bring us to our final step. Step 10, settling the estate and moving forward. So once the house is sold, many people think probate is over. Sometimes. Well, we're kind of close, but there are usually still a few final steps. The executor works with the probate attorney to pay any remaining estate obligations, resolving outstanding expenses, and eventually distribute assets according to the will or Connecticut law. At this point, my role in the transaction is technically finished, but my relationship with the family is not. Sometimes people ask me for recommendations on financial advisors, or they're helping other family members move, or maybe they're downsizing themselves. Sometimes they just simply need someone to answer a question 6 months later, and that's perfectly okay. Because from the very first meeting, I've never viewed my role as simply selling a house. I'm helping a family through one of the biggest transactions. I know that probate doesn't happen on anyone. I also know that probate doesn't happen on anyone's schedule. You didn't wake up hoping you need to learn Connecticut probate law. You didn't expect to become responsible for a home, and you certainly didn't expect to become an executor overnight. But if there's one thing that I hope you take away from this video, it's this. You do not have to carry all of that yourself. You do not have to know every answer legally. You do not have to coordinate with every contractor. You don't have to guess what repairs are going to be made. You don't have to wonder about who can provide today's market value, or a retrospective date of death valuation, or whether staging is worth it, or whether you should sell it as is. That's what I'm here for. And not because I can do everything, because I know the right people who can, from the attorneys and the valuation experts and the contractors and the cleaners and all of those people. And every person plays an important role in helping your family move from uncertainty to confidence. And when everyone works together, the process becomes far less overwhelming. So if you're watching this because your family recently lost someone, again, let me say how sorry I am for your loss. I hope this video gave you a little bit more clarity and a little less uncertainty about what comes next. If you have questions about selling a probate property anywhere in Connecticut, or if you're simply not sure where to begin, I'd be honored to help. Even if you're months away from making a decision, I'm happy to sit down, answer your questions, explain the process, and connect you with the right people so you can make informed decisions at your own pace. If this video was helpful, please subscribe to the channel. I share Connecticut real estate advice, probate resources, market updates, and practical guidance designed to make the major life transitions a little easier. And remember, you don't have to figure this out alone. I'm Devon with Dave Jones Realty, where we do everything but the packing.